Oh my God, Colleen, you're right. I mean, yesterday I was a prosecutor, and today I think I'm supposed to be collecting on a mechanics lien, and nobody wants to talk about the UCC. But anyway, you are right. They are. They're totally doing that thing where they like use the magnetic frequencies and like the electro radio frequencies to trigger your chromosomes. You remember, you told me about that. It was so crazy when you told me about it, but I checked it out. You told me about how you were in that shelter in Chicago, and then one night they did that thing where it was like they unbraided your DNA, and then they programmed each of the different streams, and then they rebraided it, and you were like, what did they do to that one strand? I thought that was like, I mean, it might be indigenous, but then they like totally gave it this personality profile, and then every encounter you started having with the people in the shelter, who, like they were a different race than you, and it was like everything was really bitchy and nasty, and they were always talking to you like you didn't have any idea what you were talking about, and you were like, how is it that that happened? And your suspicion, you told me, your suspicion was that they did something to your DNA. It was like they unraveled your DNA and then re-raveled it, just like they did in 2010, like 2009, 2010. You said that they were doing that they were like messing with people's DNA, and they were like coding it and programming it to have like these like totally caricaturized profiles, and then rebraiding it, and then telling you because you looked a certain way that you had to pretend like, or you had to act like that was like who you were, like demographically, and then they started like programming you to do certain things and putting you into nice little rainbow mixes, and it was really frustrating, and you were really upset, and you like had this suspicion, especially because you were like, oh, well, you told me this, and it totally sounds crazy, right? Because you thought somehow you were like hearing like all of these national security briefings the president was having like real early in the morning, like 4:30 a.m. You're waking up and you're like you're like on the phone with the president, like giving him some sort of advice, but then you're like, why would I do that? You know, I didn't even like the president. I don't even agree with him, and everything's really metaphorical and abstract. But then it ends up coming out in the news the next day based on him saying something or something happening. It's what you told me. But then here's the thing. This is what's so crazy about it is you were right. You were right because around that time, exactly the day you were telling me about it, what you were telling me about later, the day it happened, the president released an executive order talking about a different process regarding national security clearances. And it's this whole process regarding this whole like different like reconfiguration. And he had several executive orders that reconfigured concepts of background checks and security clearances. And there were different departments, including departments that I now believe, after listening to you and watching you, those different departments have actual racial profiles. They actually put a racial profile in to the experience of that department. And they program your freaking DNA to actually correlate. They program some genetic profile of you to have like this like racialized context for all of these different departments that fell under this national security protocol. And you saw it. And nobody wants to admit that. And they keep doing that. And right now, just like when the Supreme Court did that stuff last year, and you found the original document, remember, from April 4th? Nobody wants to talk about that little stuff, right? The way that one treaty ends up kind of like overwriting the next treaty, and you can literally see the underwriting that's like in the embedded code on the electronic files because like whatever they got going on with their coding, they haven't seen fit to do any sort of analysis, what's in the back end code, so that when people read it, it literally gets implanted into their unconscious. And so then when you try to go through the litigation process, every time they make an assignment based on race or demography, they have their nice little next installment in the series, right? And so now you're like, yesterday and today, and you're in Dallas, and you were doing that investigation about how engineers from Dallas oh my God, okay, this is where it gets really provocative. Oh my God, I just hit 403 and I'm not dead yet. Oh, hallelujah. Anyway, the point I'm making, you know about why he got murdered. I won't say his name, but he did that investigation where he was asking, where did $850 plus million go? It was $850 million plus a couple extra, million that actually was about some sort of interest-bearing situation, but they were only spending a certain amount. Why would somebody be upset that they weren't spending more money? Why would a member of the legislature be upset that they weren't spending more money? And then you found those articles about those Dallas engineers and their tribal housing program that was seasonal. Seems like somebody wants a payback for their tribal housing investment, huh? Well, I mean, the thing is, your name's not on the lease. They haven't let you have your name on a lease since you refused to vote for a Democrat. Remember? You haven't been allowed to have your name on a lease. You haven't been allowed to have a bank account without there being an act of money laundering that ends up resulting in a terrorist attack somewhere else, and then they tell you you're banned even though you asked them to investigate. But you're indoors, and somebody just got a deal on a kickback for tribal housing. Well, we have an understanding now. We have an understanding of the sort of, what do they call it? Depreciation. You know that 15% they knocked off of your VT certificate because you didn't want to send it to the oncologist? You were interested in the other brother actually acknowledging the prior communications. I know. It's complicated. The point of the matter is, Colleen, you're onto something. So don't stop. Don't stop, girl.